Wow. So Martha Collins and I go way back to an hour ago. Very good friends at this point, but I'm so glad that I was able to tell Martha that I did first meet her like 18 years ago or so, in the way that I love meeting people, which is going through the spines of the books at the Gloucester bookshop in Cambridge, and one jumped with me, and I've had it ever since. It's blue front. I remember. So, so it's nice to finally meet you tonight. For denizens of the Writers' Center, Martha Collins does not need any introduction. She's a celebrated poet and professor, translator, and editor. Her 11th book of poetry, Casualty Reports, was published in the Pitt Poetry Series on October 22. Her 10th book, Because What Else Could I Do, was published in 2019 and won the Poetry Society of America's William Carlos Williams Award. Her previous poetry books include 2 volumes of linked sequences, Night Unto Night and Day Unto Day, 2018 and 2014, and 3 works that focus on race and racism, Admit One, An American Scrapbook, White Papers, and Blue Front. Among her many awards, Martha can count the Anisfield Wolf Book Award, 2 Ohioana Awards, fellowships from the NEA, the Bunting Institute, the Ingram Merrill Foundation, and the Witter Binner Foundation, as well as 3 Pushcart Prizes, the Alice Faye de Castagnola Award for a Manuscript in Progress, the Lawrence Goldstein Poetry Prize, and residency grants from the Lannan Foundation, the Siena Art Institute, the Santa Fe Art Institute, and the Women's International Study Center. Born in Nebraska and raised in Iowa, Collins was educated at Stanford University and the University of Iowa. She founded, excuse me, it's so many bona fides, I'm choking up here. Born in Nebraska and raised in Iowa, Collins was educated at Stanford University and the University of Iowa. She founded the creative writing program at UMass Boston, and for 10 years served as the Pauline Delaney Professor of Creative Writing in Oberlin. She served as Distinguished Visiting Writer at Cornell University in 2010 and lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Tom. It's an honor to be reading with you too. And I'm going to begin by reading a few words I wrote that appear on the back of Tom's book, because this is the second time I've heard him read. And what I wrote sometime before I heard him read these poems seems even more true having heard him. So this is what I said. Where does it start? Roads and paths, literal and metaphorical, allow us to experience, sometimes in slow motion, what the poet has seen, done, and thought. And then he lets us go the rest of the way, as the poems resonate beyond their lovely images, surprising turns, and memorable poignant lines. And they continue to do that. Thank you. I'm going to read from my most recent book. I forgot I done all those things, so thanks for mentioning them. But this is still a new book to me. It's called Casualty Reports, and there are a number of different kinds of casualties and losses that the book talks about. A few of them are personal, and I'm going to begin with just one of those. Again later. The person you are trying is not accepting, is not at this time. Please again. The person you are trying is not in service. Please check that you have. This is your call. Your person is not accepting. Your person is this number. You have not corrected me. Your person is a recording. Again later, at this time, not accepting. The most common use of the term casualty reports is in reference to war. And there is a section of the book that deals with war, and I'll read a few poems from that. Thinking particularly of the war in Ukraine and also of Palestine, Israel, or Gaza. For the woman who cooks on a fire of sticks and boards beside her shell of a house, her bag of clothes in a tree. For physician Aniel Drew, his white cutting half, his year-old son turned to pieces. For the 30 dead Samuni family members dug out of the rubble of the living, including children who clutched dead mothers. For the schools and mosques and homes destroyed by bombs, for the graves disturbed by tanks. For the more than 1,300 dead, including those who walked from their homes as directed with white flags. For those going home to water their trees, lemon and almond and olive, and for those trees. This next one goes back to Vietnam. Not being there. While we bedded each other in sleeping bags on the floors of apartments, offices, while we wrote, typed, cranked the Mimeo diddle machines, passed out leaflets, flyers, cards. While we gathered in public places with cushions and blankets and dope and music and felt all right as we never felt in childhood or adolescence, felt alive as we never felt. People our age were losing things, arms and legs, innocence, sanity, girlfriends, wives, buddies, boyfriends, husbands, lives, children, family, babies, villages, ways, and means of life. And though we knew it was true, it was as we know some things we read are true. We knew few of our own dead, knew nothing of how they cherished theirs. We didn't even know they wrote poems. Like her body, the world. Hit and hit and hit and hit and falling. Getting up and trying to get up. Now one part is hitting another part, wounding its flesh, slicing its own veins, breaking its bones. But wait, we are coming, help is on the way. Now we are hitting the part that is hitting the part. Now it is arm against arm, hand against hand. Now it is eye against eye, no one can see. Now it is ear against ear, there is no map. Where is the up to get up to? Where is the body? Where are the parts? Have the parts all fallen apart? We are part of the body we forgot. We thought we lived outside like a brain in a jar. We thought we were pure like thought with nothing to lose. But we are losing too. We are losing parts. Besides, we were never that brain. We were only a part. We thought we would never fall, but we are falling. Falling and falling and falling, hitting the air. Falling, hitting ourselves, our own body. Meanwhile, the body of the world will try to get up, or else the body, the world, will fall down. There are two sections of this book that focus on coal. And as you see from this first poem, my involvement with the subject goes way back to my family. So the rest of the poems, well, some of the rest of the poems I'll read it. The coal ones. In Illinois, my father's father's father had a share in the Enterprise mine, the Enterprise Coal and Coke Company in 1871. He was a shareholder, being a coal digger, kept a log of entries, shafts, and air shafts, rooms by number and number of feet, died 1881. My father's father went down to a river town to work, came back to the mining town where his father went down in the Paradise mine, a miner and later a mine examiner, tested the air, the face, and the roof, Sundays and holidays to walk 3 miles out and back when there was no train. My father, whose mother kept him out of the mines, kept his father's oil lamp, kept his father's carbide and safety lamps, kept a box of wicks, picks, cloves, kept his father's 50-year union pin, his first aid kit, his flashlight, safe for use, kept manuals, papers. This lamp was given, all labeled, his pin was given, kept it all. It was his legacy, labeled, dated 1965, and signed and kept for me. Moving. When I was 10, they took me into a coal mine. I gave a report to our class that had seen how green was my valley, a movie set in Wales. The miners had lamps like my grandfather's lamps, and I never forgot the whistle, explosion, the father trapped and killed, but I had forgotten the wage cuts, the strike, the lost jobs, the emigration to countries like our own. DuQuoin. In my family's town, which was also Ruby Goodman's town, there were accidents, there were explosions, there were strikes. But although the miners armed themselves at least once against rumored strikebreakers, the union, which met in houses before it joined the UNWA, succeeded without violence and became one of the largest locals with over 1,000 members, including Ruby's Black father, for a time the union president. You have to join the union, he said. Everyone does. Every man has the same voice, white, black, gray, no big mind, no little youth. The next poem takes its title from a 1949 book by Margaret Wise Brown, who I'm sure some of you know as the author of Goodnight Moon. Two little miners. Two little miners standing on the golden book cover, one white and one black. They smile at each other. Like the Integrated Miners Union. Oh, but look inside. They wake up clean as snow, but by night they turned black. Black as soot, night a crow. Black as black, coal black. Back home, they live alone, but someone sticks their supper. Two little miners, black as night, scrub in your tongue until you're white. I'll come back to coal in a minute, but I want to do something else for a minute too. The late Jake Adam York, who was from Alabama, made a project of visiting the sites where civil rights were killed, Black people were killed during the civil rights movement and during that time. And had a project that he was going to visit all of these sites where all of these people were killed. And unfortunately died when he was 39. And the also late poet John Tribble took over and invited all the poets of the country to finish the job that Jake had begun. So I was visiting Philadelphia, Mississippi, and took on the task of writing about one of these people. Philadelphia, you may remember, is where Cheney, Schwerner, and Goodman were held in jail before they were killed. The poem is in 3 parts, and I'll just pause. Rehearsal. Philadelphia, Mississippi, Luther Jackson, 1932 to 90. A block from the county courthouse with the Confederate soldier memorial. Past the jail where the civil rights workers were held while the Klan assembled in '64. Down Bird to Oak to Water to Pine, past magnolias into sweet gum catalpas, into this dead-end cave of trees, where he parked one night with a girl and passed out, and Officer Rainey found them and ordered him out of the car and pushed him out of sight of the girl, who heard 2 shots and heard Rainey say, "Come down, I think I have killed a..." And then the coroner's jury said justifiable homicide, and Medgar Evers requested an investigation, but the Justice Department said no violation. And 5 years later, they accused Rainey and the others of conspiring to kill the civil rights workers. But 3 years later, Rainey himself was acquitted. And 50 years later, the FBI reopened the Jackson case, but found no police, no county records, just newspaper file and relative story. And anyway, Rainey was dead. Of course, I couldn't have been that girl, but if I'd been the white girl I was and lived here and read the papers, would I have questioned justifiable? And if I'd been here 5 years later and read about the civil rights workers, and decades later when Michael, Eric, Tamir, Philando, and all the others, could I? Hannah, imagine myself in that car at the end of this dead-end street where a man was ordered out of the car and the girl who was with him, who was not me, cried, "You have killed him for nothing." So to finish, I will return to the Cole poems, read several of them beginning with the prehistory of Cole. Grave. It is all over the earth, under earth, a graveyard. Tree ferns, trees, roots, bark, seeds, ancient life that emerged from the sea, forests flooded to swamps and bogs, transformed to peat, transformed again, sunk, covered with layers of earth, with strange amphibian, snake, and later dinosaur bones, layers and layers, and under it all for hundreds of millions of years, our ancestors resting under earth, overburdened, we say, until now. And the revolution we call love. Coal to power steam engines, to pump water and lift coal, to sell or use to power steam. Coal to coke for furnaces to smelt iron to make tools, and furnaces to smelt for rails. Trains to transport coal to power, steam engines to power trains, and boats to transport coal. Harness the power of, raised to the power of power. Types of coal mines. At first, they picked it up from the surface, but then they found it ran under the surface, and so they made open pits. But then they found it was buried too deep and constructed shafts or slopes or drifts to take them underground, where at first they blasted, but later made rooms and pillars with picks and shovels, and later with machines that made long walls that had no pillars. Meanwhile, back on the surface, they learned to strip the land of its overburden in strips or following contours, and then they learned to remove whole mountain tops, which meant using fewer people and bigger machines. This next one also takes its title from a children's book, or rather a series of children's books. The machine described in the poem Works in Germany. Now that's big. Then they made the largest machine, the heaviest in the world. It's as long as 2.5 football fields. It weighs 13,000 tons, has 18 buckets to excavate the overburden that covers the coal. It could fill 10,000 dump trucks per day, as much as 40,000 workers could. It's continuous, never stop. It's still uncovering 40 million tons each year to power electric stations that power much of its country, including itself. It won't stop till 2050, when all the coal in the mine where it works will be exhausted. Whose lungs were lost to coal dust, black coal to black lung, now rock dust to lung. Whose jobs were lost to strip mine, to mining machines, to natural gas, or paid less because. Who sold mineral rights to land when farming replaced jobs, whose farms subsided were lost. Burning. The mercury, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides from burning coal that fill our air and fall upon us as acid rain. The selenium, arsenic, lead from coal ash stored in coal ash ponds that leak and spill and pollute our waters. But most of all, the carbon dioxide released by burning that captures heat and warms our air and melts our glaciers, lifts our seas and warms them, dries our land and fuels fires, strengthens rainfalls and hurricanes that swell our waters and generate floods, all of which threaten our coasts and cities, our islands and whole nations, consume our animals, plants, insects, and fish. Whole species, including most likely our own, unless. And this is the last poem in the sequence and the last one I'll read. Thank you for being here. Blessing. Where we dug up the graves of Black slaves who mined the first coal in Illinois. Where we desiccated the graves of indigenous people that covered coal in the Southwest. Where we dug up animals, plants in their graves and burned them as oil and gas and coal. There and throughout our earth, let us grieve for the graves we robbed. And then Let us bless the graves of the dead that remain, and over them, for the living, the wind, the sun. Thank you.